Snortius found himself in a very precarious predicament. The Humies to the south in Big Town knew of his presence. And he also had things to fear from the north. He hoped that the sacrifice of Punch and Bag at the glorious Battle of Decoy would at least delay the Humies in the north from fighting further. Snortius held no true fear in his heart over fighting. He was eager to get stuck in. But he was not entirely orky. Some of the lingering cowardice from his snot and grot days remained, and he had refined it into a kind of caution, or at least some basic common sense. They only had a handful of true and proper orcs, and all-out war with the Humies would likely end in the annihilation of Snotopia if the reports from Snotbo were to be believed about the numbers in Big Town. So, what to do now? Snortius inserted a finger into each nostril, so deep were his thoughts on this matter. Suddenly, an idea began to form in Snortius's mind. A wise greenskin once said, "A good defense is a good offense." That greenskin, in fact, was Snortius, and he had just said it. Snortius remembered there was somewhat of an isolated town off to the east that actually sat along the great river. They had already taken Mega-Humiopolis without any orcs. Now that they had bigger greenskins, taking a town of similar size should be an easy matter at this point, especially now that they had roads for the trucks. As the plan was taking shape in his mind, a grot ran up to Snortius. It was none other than Red Shirt 5, the fifth in a long line of proud dead boys. Snortius idly wondered when he would follow in his ancestors' footsteps.
Boss, we got trouble.
Course we got trouble. We got Humies on all sides, and I gotta deal with it if me glorious empire is gonna keep growing.
No, there's trouble on the inside. Discontent amongst the proletariat snots, whatever that is.
What are you talking about?
The Red Gobbo. He says all bosses are gits. He says that property is theft. And I told him I already knew that as I tried to snatch at his yelling horn. Then he said I was an enemy of the people and he kicked me out. Now he is trying to start his own mob a little ways outside of Snotantinople. He took a lot of snots with him.
How many?
Yeah, many, but not lots.
This sounded like a bunch of gittery to Snortius. He didn't have time to deal with this squig plop, but he also couldn't allow something like this to fester and get into the heads of other greenskins.
Orcius, there's some grot being a git. Stomp him and get his snots back in line. I don't want no greenskins getting a red idea in their heads unless they're speed freaks. Right, boss, I'll sort 'em out proper.
With that, Orcius too set off to deal with the minor grot rebellion. He hitched a ride on a truck run, holding onto its side and leaping off as soon as he saw the small gathering of snotlings around a grot with a large hat, standing on a bucket, giving a speech to the assembled mob through a kind of makeshift bullhorn.
Are the orcs really better than us just 'cause they're bigger than us?
One of the snotlings that the Red Gobbo had dubbed Coral Snots raised a hand.
Yes? No, equality no matter what size. Does that mean I can be boss?
An eager Joseph Snotlin asked.
No, I'm bigger than you.
Orcius II rolled his eyes and walked up to the gathering, violence in his heart. The red gobbo was shouting into a piece of paper rolled up into a cone and glued together with squig paste. Upon seeing the orc, the red gobbo pointed a long accusing finger at Orcius.
Behold, one of our orc oppressors, here to do the bidding of the big bosses. Oh, come on, you've lost as much as we have to get Snotius. Join us, brother. Join the revolution.
The biggest is the bestest. Always bigger than you, so get in line. It's time to put an end to this gittery.
Orcius moved to grab at the red gobbo, who hopped off his bucket and tried to hide amongst the tiny shanties that made up Freetown, as he pulled out a grot blaster and fired at the offending orc, hoping the snotlings would rise up and help destroy the orciarchy that kept them in chains. The blast impacted on the orc's armor, leaving a nasty scorch mark and causing burns beneath the heated metal. Orcius, needless to say, was not at all pleased by this.
That's one blow for the revolution! That's one blow for the people! That's...
Orcius reached into the little nook that the grot was hiding in and hauled him out by the leg. With one brutal swipe of his roaring chain chopper, he split the little greenskin in two. The snotlings, who had not yet been properly indoctrinated into the ways of the red gobbo, looked on at the orc with dull interest, as a few others began to stand up and wander around the settlement aimlessly. A few of them were muttering about things, about the means of production and so forth. One walked up to where the red gobbo's paper bullhorn fell and put it on his head as a hat. The red flag that had been flying over Freetown was picked up by another and wrapped around his waist like a skirt.
Right, this spot is now mine. I was calling it Augsburg. Now when I show up, I want some stuff to fight. I want you lot to grab up some good monsters or squigs to scrap with. And if you don't, I'm crumping you lot when I come round. I'll get me a fight one way or another.
The direct threats of Orcius seemed to resonate a bit more than the complexities of class warfare that the red gobbo had tried to rile them up with. And so the revolution came to a screeching halt. Or at least it was delayed. Though the red gobbo was dead, his ideals were not. Perhaps the cries of the oppressed would be heard yet again someday. But with that small issue taken care of for the moment, it was time for Snotius to prepare his latest attack. The plan had been forming in Snotius's great skull for some time. He wanted to use the ancient tried and true orc tactic that he of course just made up, called the Trojan truck. He and a bunch of the boys would all pile into one of the trucks and look like they are making a normal delivery to a Hume settlement. When they're let in, they'll leap out and slaughter all the Humies they could find. It was perfect. Snotius began gathering his forces at Megahumiopolis for the attack. The great Snot Boss hand-selected his crew. Orcamungus, the Big Chef, Dr. Crumplestein would all join him as some proper fighty orcs. Amongst the grots and grotlings, Da Furious, Redshirt 5, Tree Climber, Double D, Snotbow, and Steve would join him. Then Snotius packed the truck with as many snotlings as could reasonably tag along. As the greenskins all loaded into the truck, the plan was simple. They would head down to Snotantinople, go off-road for a bit, across the meadows to the south, until they hit the Hume roads, and then they would turn east towards, Snortius thought he would call it East Gitville. But then he realized that if he were about to take it over, he didn't want his boys living in some place called Gitville. They might very well go Gettish. The East Town should be called, East Town, Easton. His boys were going to conquer Easton. In order to make the ruse work, they nabbed one of the Humies they had captured back during the conquest of Megahumiopolis, and they forced him to pose as the driver. The Humie called himself Paul, and soon the truck was all loaded up and they were zooming off towards their target. The Greenskins experienced no delays or any kind of problems as they passed Snartantinople, crossed the Great Meadows, and reached the Humie roads. No other Humie trucks were even anywhere to be seen. It was not long before Easton came into view. The Greenskins ducked out of sight as DeFurious also followed suit and hid in the footwell with a lasgun pointed at Paul. As they pulled up, Paul waved to the guards at the gate. They smiled and waved back as they gestured for Paul to lower his window, and he did so. "Hey, how's it going? We weren't expecting another shipment so soon, but I'm not about to complain about more goods. What are you hauling?" DeFurious jammed his weapon into Paul's gut.
Tell him you're hauling stupid Yumi stuff.
We have some farm equipment. We also have some parts for you. That's all I can say. I'd have to look at the manifest to see what else we got. This response seemed to satisfy the Humie at the gate, and the truck was permitted to enter. Snortius and his boys snickered amongst themselves as they prepared their surprise attack on the Humies. But while they prepared for their assault, something was coming up north from Big Town towards Megahumiopolis. A powerful machine of war. A plume of dirt could be seen rising along the road as a mighty, fully loaded chimera trundled towards the Greenskin Bastion. Now the Empire of Snortopia must fight a war on two fronts. Will Snortius be victorious? And will Megahumiopolis still be under his control, even if he does? Only Gork knows. Or quite possibly Mork. No man do they call me. My mother and my father, and all my comrades as well. Thank you all for listening to the latest episode of Growing the Tribe. If you liked what you heard, please leave a like and a comment so that when you go charging off to face an enemy, another enemy won't attack your base while you're out. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so in order to hear more stories about the brilliance of Snortius. If you would like to support me, links to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Teespring are down below. And finally, if you absolutely have no idea what's going on, you can click on the Growing the Tribe playlist, and that should be appearing on screen right now. So thank you all for listening. Once again, No Man out.